For the first 2 minutes is explore the idea of what limits access, and then we're going to explore the idea of what limits accessibility. But I want to start with access because that's what we're here to talk about. So the first thing that comes to mind is connectivity, right? Bandwidth. And I'd like this to be interactive, so if you have an idea of what limits access, go ahead and yell it out. Another one that comes to mind is money. You can't afford a device, you can't access
Geography.
internet. Geography.
Like location, where you.
Time.
Time in what way?
Time, free time to be able to do things. Time to be able to dedicate to things you care about.
Physiology.
Physiology in what way?
Hand movements.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a better word for that.
Yeah. Limiting.
The media or the political regime you happen to be in that's restricting access to knowledge.
I'd also like to add permission to that. I was just reading a story about women in certain countries who are not allowed to have devices, just like not given them. Anything else that limits access in your mind?
Maybe technical proficiency.
Efficiency, knowledge, yeah.
Literacy, for that matter.
Yes.
Poor infrastructure. Poor as in the infrastructure is supposed to work and you get a 404 or you get a file not found or a Wi-Fi error.
Yeah, stuff like that. Cool. All right, so we're moving fast. Let's switch over now to accessibility. And by this I mean the field of providing accommodation for people who have physical disabilities.
So things that limit accessibility?
Yes, what limits accessibility? It could be in the individual or in the system or perhaps even in the environment. So I'll give you one. People often think of disabilities as permanent, but let's say you're in a bar and it's noisy and you're trying to watch the TV, you can't hear it. So sometimes just noise can be a limiting factor to the accessibility of knowledge.
Brightness.
You're out in the sun and you can't see your screen.
Yeah.
You're on your feet. It's not convenient to use a keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I would describe that.
So maybe just body position. If you're carrying a baby and a bag and you have to like open up a door, it can be hard to do.
Font size.
What's that?
Font size. Text size.
Font size and maybe just like the physical size of a device.
Yeah. Contrast.
Default language and not knowing how to change it.
Yeah. And then we just have things like vision, low vision, no vision. You want to think about?
Mobility.
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
Mobility.
Oh. Distractions.
Distractions, yep. And then I think that feeds in really well to like cognitive ability to understand something in terms of the complexity of
Visual. Well, we talk about those visions.
and money again comes into this, the ability to afford the assistive technologies that often cost thousands of dollars. Vocabulary, yes. Cognitive.
Just opportunities to do stuff. Like, you know, if you're selected into a certain role, then you have like your abilities expand because you're in that role. If you're not selected, then
And permission comes down to, yeah. I've seen in some countries where folks with disabilities are literally not allowed to have a job because they're considered to be incapable of having that job, even though they could very well do it. Yeah. Okay, so the minute we have left, as you're thinking about these issues of access, I'd like you to consider that in my mind, they blend. When we think about the field of accessibility, which has often thought about folks as disabled, what I'm like trying to do in my job is to think about the abilities that we have and the disabilities that are either temporary or congenital, and to think about those as just access issues. Like, there's no single human that is perfectly capable in every way throughout time. And when we think about how we provide information offline, we have to think about how we provide information to humans in sort of all the conditions that they're in. And this to me is a little bit like the idea of responsive design. Like, we took this idea of stretching a browser and we expanded it to concepts of progressive enhancement. We took a very physical sort of problem and turned it into a movement. To me, I want to see us take this sort of physical accommodation solutions and turn it into the movement of how do we start providing access across these ranges of abilities. And